Welcome back to a bit of a windy old afternoon here in Christchurch. Supposed to get a bit of rain this evening or tomorrow. Anyway, we need it. Spring. Right, let me turn this radio off. And what am I talking about today? Well, actually, while we're here, this was my interpretation of a, what do you call it, a tapping jig. I've actually got it's a standoff ring for in a plumbing situation where you've got a pipe, etc., and you can put a standoff from a wall. I've made that as a clamp. There's the handle, and I've disengaged the belts in the top here, and this spins quite freely. Thank you very much. Which means there's no restriction for me when I'm turning it, which I had previously done it with the belt still on. So I've removed them, and what a difference. And this handle allows me to turn the chuck and then thread my holes. I do need the extra pin that I sometimes will put in the hole here, like this, to aid me, because there's not quite enough clamping pressure for when this bites in and cuts into the metal. Considering that's an M16, it's a 2mm pitch, it's got quite a bit of cutting requirement. It's cutting quite a deep thread, so of course there's a bit of resistance. Worked really well, so I'm actually very happy for that little change. Take the belts off, use your drill as a threading machine, tapping machine. Rightio, what have I got in store for you this afternoon, my time? Well, I was thinking, and you know where that goes, but I was thinking that the nuts that I had purchased at great expense, literally, I'm not kidding, the nuts were quite pricey for what they were galvanised. And yeah, okay, I'll just give you a wee bit of a just show you what I'm talking about. The threaded rod that I was using was zinc plated. I should have had my first inkling there. I thought about this issue and I thought, oh no, not an issue, but the zinc plated threaded rod and a galvanized nut have got different inherent tolerances to their thread design. Generally, that is the case. Nuts that have been threaded for galvanizing and rod that has been galvanized have to be reduced down in size somewhat to be able to take the galvanizing and then for the everything to work. In theory, you might think that once it was galvanized, the nut that is, it would have the same thread as a non-galvanized nut. Whoops, that shouldn't have been there. That's actually a lock nut. Someone's put them in the wrong flaming box. Anyway, I've just been to the shop. But I was thinking, let's go check that out, because I was pretty certain that threads are cut to match each other's finish level. So galvanized to galvanized, zinc to zinc. So I went down and got some I actually checked before I purchased them, and sure enough, the wobbliness, I'll get back to you, I'm just trying to do one offhand with one hand. The wobbliness of a zinc nut on a zinc thread is probably 25% of that, of a galvanized nut, as it turns out. So I've reduced the wobbliness by 75%, there or thereabouts, pick a figure. It's greatly reduced, so that the tolerance has been increased inherently just by making sure I've got my correct finish. Correct. Oh, jeez. If you're not following me, I don't blame you. God, I feel like giving myself a bit of an uppercut. But to make things even better, I thought, I've got a bit of an issue on how I present my nut up to the zinc nut up to my little assembly here. And I thought, maybe I can put a lock nut in and turn the two together so it pushes the nut into a more regular position, because after all, that wobbly-olness that was going on was causing me some problems with thinking that the error would be too great. And I thought, hang on, let's not have a lock nut, let's put a spring between my jig plate and the nut, meaning it'll always force the nut against the thread that way. Now, there's not much wobble. I don't think I needed to worry about it once I'd got the correct nut combo. But now, I'm going to do it anyway, because it does actually stop the nut from turning, because it's got a bit, the spring is giving it a wee bit of resistance to turning. I can wind my nut on, I can flush it up because I've polished up the end, and I can flush it up so I can feel each facet of the, as I turn it, if I turn it so 1/6 revolution, being a hexagonal nut, I can flush it up and go, yep, that's it, right there, it's lovely. Down, turn it around there, no, it's a little bit hollow, turn it back. So I'm getting to the fidelity of 1/3 of a millimetre by choosing which face or facet or face of the nut I have orientated vertically. That means now that when I present this up, push it into the assembly here, that nut and the next nut and the next nut and the 20 thereafter are all in the same relative position. I can then get my super glue, put a couple of dobs of super glue on the face of the nut, present it up, push it in, hold it for a few seconds, and then I'm done. Take the registration pin out, wind the now joined pieces together, and on with the next one. So this is why when I was saying to you the other day when I was talking about this, that this is a very simple, very basic jig that can be built quite simply. No, you do not need this sort of plate. In fact, I could take this off altogether, drill, in this case, an 8mm hole in a bit of custom wood. I could drop my pin down through my assembly, this assembly, into that hole. That registers. I could have the same sort of offset or whatever I choose. Move my jig, which also can be a bit of melamine if you chose, and then present up, and you've got exactly the same accuracy as I've got here. It's just that it was simple enough for me to do because I had the steel available. So, yay. So that was the update for today. Very happy with that. Do like the fact that I had the good common sense to go and check out whether indeed the threaded rods were, the interface between the nut and the rods were tighter when they were both zinc coated rather than the galvanized ones, which is now basically a waste of money. Darn it, I hate when I do that. So, yay. I can move ahead with this at some stage. Now that I've got it ready to move ahead, I can put it aside for just now because I've got other things to do. One of the things that I wanted to do is I've got these little washer interface, countersunk washers, if you want to call it, and I'm going to use those in conjunction with the countersunk bolt to thread onto my top. This top here on the miter station, for the miter saw. I will insert that into my top, and then I can thread this down into the timber, and that should be enough. I think that just making the thread into the timber is all the fixing that I will probably require. I've got the alternative to use a timber screw. Also could go into this. Well, actually no, it wouldn't. It would just go straight into this, countersink it, flush it up. That will give a wee bit more of a bite, but as most people know, if you put a reasonably tight hole, still able to get this threaded into it, the machine screw thread will still bite quite well into the timber, and I can't see it letting go. Alternatively, or expanding that a little bit, I could always put a nut in the timber itself and thread into. Don't think that's necessary. I think a couple of these should suffice quite well. Thank you very much. So that's my thinking there. This, I'm giving it a thumbs up. I'll keep on moving ahead with other stuff, and because of actually waiting for someone to come, doesn't look like they'll be coming today, to have a look at and or possibly take away my sander. And you know the story there. And quite annoying, but yeah, I'd like to be able to finish this off, but I'm holding off using it just now. I used it a little bit this morning, and the problem seemed to start to go away. I came out this afternoon, went to use it, and problem was back again. So it almost sounds like there's a well, it's intermittent, and it could be a temperature related issue. As the motor warms up, perhaps there's something that has moved, expanded, and changed. So normally it would be around the other way, I would have thought, but there you go. Put this aside just now. Might have a wee bit of a tidy up in the workshop, just a bit of a rationalisation, tidy some of this up, and yeah, just do some small stuff today, and we'll see what we get done in the coming weeks. Coming days, rather. Whew. Yeah, today being Wednesday. We need to see what we can get done by the weekend. Rightio, that's it. That was the update. Good update as far as I'm concerned. But, yeah, maybe you can use the idea as well and go with it and expand upon it. Anyway, that's it. I'll see you in the next one now. Bye.